Our next panel up here on the main stage is a discussion about machine shop efficiency. Real stories from shops who have achieved amazing gains. Our moderator for today's panel is Paul Van Meter. He's the president of ProShop USA. And Paul has an interesting story. I spoke to him a couple nights ago. He talked about when he first got started in aerospace, he was working on the machine shop floor, experiencing a lot of the frustrations that we all experience every day. But Paul seems to be a little bit different in my book. He said, what can we do about it? And how can we make things better? So Paul is going to lead a panel today about how to make things better. So Paul, could you come up and introduce us to your panel today?
All right, thank you, Justice, appreciate it. So think about any man-made product today, and I guarantee you that at the root of that product, there's machining and complex manufacturing processes like you guys do. Because that's the case, it's really crucial to our economy and to our industry. Digital transformation is changing manufacturing today. Having real-time connected information between your shop floor, your office, your suppliers, is revolutionizing how we do business. It brings unprecedented levels of efficiency and things like quality, delivery, and we've had customers reduce their late orders by 90% by going digital transformation. We've had suppliers cut their lead time from their planning process by 10x. We've seen customers reduce their rejections down to almost zero. And at the same time, increasing profitability by more than 20%. These are really meaningful improvements. And if you multiply that by hundreds and thousands of companies, it can have a really meaningful impact to our economy. And this is what our mission is. So in the old model of a manufacturing company, machinists did machining, estimators did estimating, accountants did accounting, and IT tried to keep all the systems running together. There was little to no digital connection between those systems and those processes. That's all changed. At this point, it's not if your company will embrace digital transformation, it's how fast and will you be a leader in this area. And it's not actually that hard. That's one of the most exciting parts about it. When I look around this room, I see all sorts of people we know. There's customers, there's collaborators, and there's even competitors. Like us, many of these companies are moving digital transformation forward. Companies like Ubisense, SAP, Plex, Zemelgo, Vericut, Mastercam, ID Integration, they're all fully invested in helping our companies move forward to a digital world. And these systems allow our employees to share real-time information with what they're doing on the shop floor, contributing to the intellectual property of your company and to our economy. Give you a little bit of history of where we came from. My partners and I met up at Western, where we designed and built race cars every year. We fell in love with manufacturing, and we decided to start a machine shop right after school. So one of my partners took out a second mortgage on his house, and that was enough money to buy a Haas VF4, pay for a few months of rent, and we started knocking on doors. We were lucky that some companies gave us a shot, like Rich, who you'll meet in a few minutes. So in '97, we opened our doors. In 2000, we had matured into a company that was doing more complicated work. And our needs for managing all that information and that data became more sophisticated. And we started outgrowing the Excel-based system that we had started with. Kelsey over here made all sorts of fancy, cool macros, but it still wasn't going to be enough. So we started getting bids and demos from ERP software companies, possibly some of the systems you guys are using today. And we were excited to have them show us how their systems would manage our cutting tools and our inspection plans and our work instructions. and our cutting to all these different things that were so critical to us on a daily basis. And unfortunately, they told us, no, I'm sorry, we don't do those things. We can help you quote and post your orders in, and then print out a piece of paper to go out into the shop. And we just weren't into that. So we hired a software developer back in the year 2000, and we started developing this thing that ultimately we called ProShop. And over the next many years, we grew kind of organically, and ProShop grew with us. As we got ISO and then AS certified, we built all the QMS modules to manage all those things for us. And we had the collective voices of our machinists, our estimators, our purchasing people, our inspectors, all telling us exactly what they needed it to do to make their jobs efficient. And organically, we built this thing that just is fundamentally different than anything else out there. We came to learn. Around 2008, this guy named Rich that we knew was moonlighting for us on the weekends so he could earn enough money to build a sports court for his kids in the backyard of his house. And he used ProShop, and he went back to the owners of their company and he said, you've got to see the system. So they approached us and asked us to sell ProShop to them, which we said, no, it's not for sale. We're not a software company. But they were pretty insistent, and we decided to give it a shot. So none of us expected the kind of improvements that they saw. It kind of blew us all away. They had some other suppliers that were also not performing as well, so they asked us if we could sell it to some of our competitors, which we did, and they all had great results. So we decided then to switch and kind of switch our business, and we sold our machine shop, ProCNC, in 2014. And this is a snapshot of what we look like today, or at the time. So these companies that are going to come up and talk to us in a minute, and we're going to play a video right now. But these guys are going to share a little bit of their experience through a digital transformation and what it's meant to their companies. So if we could cue up that video.
One of the benefits of ProShop for me was peace of mind. Running a job shop, they say, is one of the hardest jobs in the world. ProShop helped us with that. It streamlined all of our processes.
The efficiency level of everyday operations is staggering in that we now have the ability to see everything. I can't describe enough of what it is like to be able to literally see everything from one desktop. It's a brilliant, brilliant software.
It's been impressive at how easy ProShop is for me to look up issues with jobs, to see if we were profitable on a current job. Are we bidding it right? So it's taken it to where anytime I have any questions or any concerns about a job, I can look the entire history up to how much material we purchased, to where it went out for outside processing, any accessories, how much tooling did we have to buy for that job.
The fact that ProShop was designed by people that had owned a job shop and knew what I was dealing with, I could tell immediately that what they were giving us was the perfect ingredients and directions on how to bake a cake. And so all I had to do was just follow those directions, use those ingredients, and I would be successful. And that's exactly what we did.
Our largest changes was the fact that we realized we had a lot of waste. ProShop instantly showed us that.
We had a lot of difficulties in maintaining a good schedule that would be accurate so we could forecast on our workload, be positive on when we're going to get our items to our customers, and we just constantly were fighting with that. And ProShop really gives me a better comfort level in knowing where my schedule's at, how I'm performing for my customers, and what they're going to get.
We get audited quite often being in the aerospace industry, whether it's AS 9100 or Boeing themselves, the FAA, Gulfstreams. And the one thing they always all say is they've never seen a more complete, robust software in any of the shops that they go in.
I mean, we've had companies like SpaceX come in here and literally tell us that this is the best setup they've ever seen. And when we open up ProShop, their eyes get wild and they ask us if they can tell their other shops about ProShop.
ProShop really has nailed it when it comes to what a shop really needs to know, what customers are going to ask, and it's just an amazing product to have.
It's a lot easier as an owner to be able to run a business model that works versus fighting a business model that doesn't.
I appreciate how they make my life easier. It's it's truly invaluable.
So I'd like to bring up on stage my customers. So we'll start with Rich. Rich Olson is the general manager of Celthor Marine. Celthor Marine's cabinet latches can be found on the majority of commercial aircraft flying today. His professional expertise is unparalleled, and we are honored and fortunate to call him a friend and a customer for more than 22 years. Next, we have Matt Golick, president of 3D Industries in Chicago. His shop specializes in ultra-high precision, multi-process aerospace parts. The tolerances they can hold will make most machinists shake in their steel-toed boots. And Matt also brings an equally precise level of strategic thinking to running his companies. And David Hanna, president of G0 CNC Machining, a highly successful shop near the Boise, Idaho area. So David has a great story. In 2007, David had the great idea to leave the stressful, high-pressure corporate life in LA and trade it for the peaceful and stress-free existence of running a machine shop. So he bought a machine shop in Boise with no machining experience to his name, but with a steep learning curve, he's clearly had success because they're doing great, so he's a natural at it. Thank you, David, for joining me. Thank you, guys. So I'll start with you, Rich. You mentioned in the video about being audited, right? Can you just describe a little bit of what maybe your audits used to be like and how it changed once you had everything in sort of a single digital system?
Absolutely. So starting out we had to go to AS, it was required for Boeing suppliers. I don't, to this day, know how we even passed our audit. We had auditors, 3-4 auditors in. We were grabbing stacks of paper from back alleys. I mean, it was remarkable. We had processes in place, but to be able to maintain and follow those just was not feasible or efficient for us. So it was always stressful. It was always led to major findings that we had to then deal with to reestablish how we were going to correct these findings. And it just was not working for us. Part of the reason ProShop has changed that is we now bring in our auditors, we sit in a conference room, and we just navigate. We just navigate from there. And basically, if we find a finding, it's not due to the software. It's, we've jumped off course, but it's these audits, what used to be so stressful, we welcome now, and we used to dread having to go through it.
Either of you have an experience in auditing as well?
Yeah, we had our first audit last June, just a follow-up audit, and our auditor actually wrote up ProShop in his system. Was so surprised at how easy it was to find everything, how we could show him the training for our people, any certs that we needed. We can follow the history of any part consistently. And so he's coming back this May for our full 3-year audit. So I'm sure we'll fly through it with flying colors.
Yeah, we just had a audit with Harris Precision. They do satellites, and their type of work that they have. If anybody's done Harris work before, is almost absurd as far as their tolerancing and delivery demands. And they have a real tough audit, and they've sent 3 people in. And afterwards, I don't know if I told you this, Paul, but they said your system is sexy.
Okay.
And for someone to say that about an ERP, right? But they were like wildly impressed to the point where they actually asked us if we would be like a flagship model for their other suppliers, if they could call us and introduce them to ProShop and how we manage all of our work. So it was
Well, it's okay with me if you do that.
what's that?
It's okay with me if you do that.
Right.
David, you talked about the challenges you had with scheduling and how you've been able to now deliver more reliably and have better on-time performance. Can you maybe share some of the things that went into that? What was challenging before versus today? some of the systems having things be paperless that allow better delivery?
Sure. I've always known to have a successful company, you have to have a good ERP system, something that's going to work, that we can keep track of everything. Your customer will be comfortable in knowing that you're following certain procedures. So we used a different company before. I don't know if I can say that, but and we switched to ProShop just because I was at one of these conferences and saw Paul give a demo, and was like, it was amazing because it was like too good to be true. It's like, okay, he's just showing me all the cool stuff and everything, but it was really neat, and I think this is something I want to look at. So we looked at it a little more and implemented it, and it is just night and day at how much I can schedule through my shop now and be comfortable with what I'm scheduling, instead of just accepting orders, throwing them into the system and hope they land on time, which they never would. Our previous system we had to use Excel sheets to accentuate what their jobs were. Now we're 100% paperless. Everybody has a computer at their workstation. They can see prints, they can see their inspection, in-process checks they have to do. So really to go from kind of not really having a schedule, just a kind of a booked orders there, to now we have a true schedule that we can see what's coming up. If I need to notify a customer that I'm going to be a day late, I can let them know a week ahead of time or a few days ahead of time, depending on how long the process was, to let them know and see if there's room in the schedule. If they say, sure, great, we've solved the problem. If they say no, then we see what we have to do to get it out on time with overtime, moving another operation to another machine, and it just makes it so simple for us to figure that out.
So Matt, you obviously do very high tolerance parts, and quality is really key to what you do. Can you describe a little bit of what it is like to combine all those quality processes, inspection reports, everything into one system versus a paper-based thing like you had before?
I wish my quality manager was here, Anna. It's been a lifesaver for her. It was really tough managing our quality system because, like you said, our tolerances are so tight. So there's a lot of back and forth between the machinists and quality and our customer and engineering. And so having that in one closed loop makes her job and the people that work for her, it makes it enjoyable. Before ProShop, again, we used another ERP software. It was actually made things worse than when we had just Excel. People were not, they weren't having fun. But now that everything is in a perfect place, right? And the communication is so clear, and people are now starting to enjoy their jobs more. Everybody from top to bottom. So.
Nothing more important than that. Rich, you saw some reductions in overhead staff when you first got ProShop. I remember you told us you employed 2 full-time expediters.
Right.
And you would always sort of be fighting to try to get the hottest jobs out the door. Can you maybe describe a little bit of how that changed after you got paperless?
Sure. So yeah, we used to our system, or our previous system was, it would manage our jobs and when we needed them. The problem is it didn't give us the ability to see out to the end of the schedule. Like it could only manage so much, and so we were fighting every day. If someone did come in with an expedited job or something that had to be pushed in front, it would just kind of blow up the schedule or our view of everything. And so I constantly had people that were expediters, like you said, managing and trying to focus their attention solely on this. As we got to ProShop and we had full visibility from start to finish of every job, every order, it allowed us to cut some overhead where we needed and put resources into other areas that maybe needed some extra attention. And we just found out what we call in the industry was waste. And we had a lot of waste of those people that were doing this role for us that we no longer needed. So that's what ProShop was able to do for us there.
That's awesome. Thank you. Dave, you talked, when you first got ProShop, you told me that you were going to implement it pretty well, but that our cutting tool module you probably wasn't going to mess with because it wasn't really the thing you thought would be necessary. And then you had an epiphany a few months later. Can you describe what that was and how that affected your company and the workflow?
Yeah, so as we implemented ProShop, the schedule was my big thing that I wanted because that drives everything. Well, there's a nice feature in ProShop is the machinist is doing their job. They can put in notes to the side of anything that happened while they were going along. And so we would read those notes and review what happened in jobs. And I come to find out that it was my setups were just horrible. I mean, they were taking forever. We'd give a half-hour setup on op one, and it'd take an hour and a half. And so I'd look over at the comments, and the comments would be, looking for a fixture, looking for a tool. And so I'm like, I have a guy walking around looking for a 1032 tap, which costs $8, and he's spending hours looking for this thing. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I said, okay, let's look at the tool module. So we look at the tool module and start implementing it, and come to find out that now I have one gentleman who used to be full-time as he was setting it up to get everything started because it gets so detailed. Pictures of tools, everything could be in there. It's just amazing. So, but now he queues up the jobs ahead of time. We know where the tools are and what machines they're in. If they're going to be done in time, we can reuse that tool, great. If not, we'll go buy another one, which cut down our expediting of, UPS Red is probably depressed right now for this system. So, but really just the improvement that we saw in our setup reduction is just phenomenal. I mean, I can't even explain it how excited we were to see that we've cut something out by implementing a process in the system that tells us everything instead of just guessing. We know for sure. We know exactly how many tools we have, what machines they're in, and when they're going to be used. If you scrap one out, just delete it from the system, and it tells you if you need to buy another one or not. So you're not anticipating, you're not using a cartridge system or a vending machine system anymore.
Thank you. So Matt, I've always been impressed by your sort of strategic business thinking, the books you've recommended to me. You mentioned that before you put ProShop in, you really went through the org chart and company positions and training modules to make sure you had the right people on the bus and the right seats. Can you just describe a little bit of that process and how that's helped your company?
Sure. Well, we had spent a decade trying to implement an ERP unsuccessfully. And then when we met Nate from Microsoft, mutual friend he had mentioned ProShop, and we were in the middle of a rehab. We took our whole job shop down to the floorboards with a system called EOS, which is, you guys I'm sure are familiar with Traction. It's a great book. We took it very seriously, and we got all the people that weren't 110% on board with ERP. And then put everybody in the right seats, which was absolutely critical when implementing ProShop, because ProShop you have to be 100% dedicated. And that's why I would urge everybody to actually visit with Paul and Kelsey and the guys over there to take a look at what they're doing, because I think this is going to be a standard in manufacturing very shortly. It's getting a lot of publicity. It works. It's amazing. It really is. And but you have to have the right people. You have to have the right mindset to implement it. You got to be serious about it.
Yeah, I would say to that was our biggest fear, is people buying in. The culture change in a work environment is so tough. But once people saw how it was going to make their lives easier to the day-to-day, they instantly bought in. And, similar, if someone, for whatever reason, wasn't willing to buy in, well, that's life. And we're going in a certain direction. You either got on the train or you didn't. But that's exactly what we did as well.
Yeah. Great. Just one last question. Companies are always looking to bring on new customers and diversify their work statement. I know for us at our shop, and I've heard it from some of you and other customers, that ProShop becomes, or your system, in your case ProShop, but your system becomes a really critical part of your sales tool, your sales process, to differentiate your company from everyone else that has the same machines and the same, I wonder if you can just kind of describe a little bit of your process of using your system as a sales tool.
Oh, okay. So, it's my job as a sales manager to get people in the door and get a company tour, right? So when I get people to visit, I do about 2 a week. And after we're done with the tour, Matt Rohde, my manufacturing manager / engineering manager, gives them a full-blown tour of ProShop, and we can't get people out of the building. So they're stuck. They love it. It's kind of taken the art out of my sales job. Everybody kind of makes fun of me. All I have to do is just get people in the door and then sell them stuff. Because that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants their job to be safe. When they walk into a shop that somebody is dedicated to ProShop like us, they see and they open up that system and they look in and they say, "Wow!" Like we run them through jobs from start to finish. I'm sure you guys do the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they're sold because it's what they've been looking for, and they see that we're actually doing it because with ProShop you can't